You are listening to Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast.
When your heart is aching and your world is shaking, don't give up. No, don't give up.
Hello and welcome to Oh My Health, There Is Hope, the podcast. I'm your host, Jana Short. And today I'm here with a very special guest that I hope I get his name right because I've been kind of practicing. Jonathan Patarkatsi. I think I got close. I got really close.
That was perfect.
Jonathan, before I read your intro, I want you to say it. So it's really a beautiful name. Can you say
Thank
it?
you. Yes, it's a Patarkatsi.
So I didn't get it quite right, but I was close.
Oh, it's super close. I'm telling you, it's good enough.
Well, Jonathan and his sister Lauren are the founders and co-founders of a health-focused iced tea brand, Down to Earth, that is on a mission to celebrate the healing power of the earth in its most natural state. Their methods are grounded in the sustainability to preserve all the rich, earthy, healthy benefits that our body deserves. No added sugars, no added preservatives, and range from only 5 to 10 calories per bottle. Jonathan and Laurena, is it Laurena or Laurena?
It's Laurena, Lauren with an A.
Lauren with an A, so Laurena.
Yeah. Laurena, yes.
Are also the founders and co-founders of a loyal sweets that offers a robust natural profile. It consists of superfood ingredients that has been used for centuries as longevity aid, and it's the mighty monk fruit, which I love. And by the way, I went to that website before we started talking, and you got donuts.
Yeah, well, we show how people can make donuts with the sweetener because we use it in absolutely everything, and we like to share some of the recipes that we use. But it's amazing that you could literally use it in pretty much everything, and you don't miss sugar at all.
Well, I can tell you that I had to give it up 3 years ago and I started using monk fruit. That's all I use now in our home. And I cook with it, I bake with it. It's like I put it in everything. And if it's not the ingredient in something that's sweetened that I get, I don't get it. So
Yeah, I'm in the same
definitely
boat.
we will dive into that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I love monk fruit.
Well, one of the things we ask all of our guests to do is to share their story of hope, because I believe our stories of hope are what we put out into the world. Is kind of our superpower and what inspires others. So do you want to share your story of hope with us today, Jonathan?
Sure, I'd love to. I mean, I think my story of hope sort of starts with a few family members before me. My great-grandma was a really big pioneer in my family. My family's from Eastern Europe. And when my parents and my grandparents and my great-grandma first immigrated to this country, they had a lot of challenges. They literally had to start from zero. And a really big constant in their lives was tea and holistic healing, traditions that in Eastern Europe that they brought with them here. And even though they had a lot of challenges, even when I was initially, born and brought into the world, my sister and I both, that was sort of a part of our routine that was really constant and consistent. We were always making these, herbal teas and herbal beverages. And I think in, my great-grandmother's mind and even my parents' mind, it was sort of just like a pleasure of ours, to consume these things. And they didn't at the time realize that would actually become a business and a mission many years later. And, I say that because I think a lot of people in their daily lives might have little small habits or tips that they try to sort of pass on to their children or grandchildren, not knowing if it's going to really have a large impact. And I think my story proves that it genuinely can have a huge impact, many years later, even if you don't realize it. And I've always sort of kept that with me because, building a business in the space that I'm in and, pursuing a passion is very challenging. There's a lot of challenges every single day. But if you consistently remember your why and your true mission and that you even got started with in the first place, it really grounds you and reminds you why you started in the first place, and it keeps you going through all the challenges. So I'd say that's sort of my story of hope.
By the way, I love your story of hope, and I'm sure your grandparents are super proud of everything that you've done, that you were listening and that you took it to heart, and that you are changing other generations, right? It's not just this generation. What you're teaching others and sharing with others can hopefully create a generational change in the world and how we see, nature and the earth as a healing propriety for us.
100%. And that's always been my goal. I think that, the health and wellness space has really exploded. And what we see a lot of are just like trends and trend-based brands that sort of have, a 3-year life cycle. Their goals are a lot more short term. They're just sort of focused on the financial. And that's never been our mission. Our mission is to really create products and to educate for many generations to come. And by doing that, you really have to create products that are timeless and that aren't focused on trends and that are rooted in principles that will always remain relevant because they come from the past. I mean, it's rooted in nature, it's rooted in past generations. We're just trying to find a way to make it more easily accessible to the consumers of today.
Well, Jonathan, I want to talk about some of the things you've tapped into already and started talking about. I think that I was in my 50s. I'm in my 60s now, but I was in my 50s when I learned about natural stuff. My husband's a veterinarian. My ex-husband's an internist. Both my daughters were in med school. And when modern medicine failed me, they knew nothing. They said, like, literally, when we were in med school, they gave us a semester of nutrition, and it was mostly based on how foods interact with medications. And so it really wasn't about how you eat to thrive or how you eat to survive and what's out into the world. Having said that, those two beautiful daughters are now doctors of natural medicine because they wanted to be on the healing side instead of the treating side of medicine. But my husband being a veterinarian, do you know when a dog gets sick or has indigestion, it instinctively knows to go out and eat grass. Or to go and what not to eat, like what to put in their mouths, what not, like they know what to do instinctively. They smell for the herbs if they're in the wild, right? To get that calming, whatever it is that their issues are. And they instinctively know that. But as humans, we don't know that. Like we don't understand the smell and the taste and the herbs and the earth and putting mud on, a burn and all the weird things they did back then to heal. And we're like, oh, we're so beyond that, but we're not.
We really aren't. Even with dogs, I mean, we find that so many times if, something is going wrong, they'll just fast for like a day. You could bring them water. They don't even want the water. And they do that to sort of reset their systems. And I think that a big issue is that people in general have sort of lost touch with their intuition and their gut feeling because we're all constantly surrounded by so much noise. Now with social media, even if you're home alone, you're typically surrounded and bombarded by noise on all fronts. And when you're always surrounded by people and noise, what that does is it sort of blocks your ability to connect with your intuition. And that's why I think, for everyone out there, it's really important to give yourself that alone time and to give yourself that time to really sort of go within and connect with your intuition, because that typically has a lot of the answers. And I think that there's this misconception that because we've modernized as a society, the solutions to, our everyday issues and to, our healthcare have to be modern. They have to come in a pill form. They have to be, a really sort of high-tech procedure. When in reality, a lot of the best healing traditions are still the simplest and are the things that have been done for many, many, many generations before us. And I think that it's important for people to really understand that, even though it might not be as cool in their minds, it might not seem as exciting as, a new procedure or a new type of technology, there's a reason why, nature has given us all of these ingredients and why these things exist. And even if you are living a more modern lifestyle, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, you should still look to incorporate nature, the earth, and these truly natural healing modalities into your daily life.
So I want to talk about some of the products that you created, and we're not really a product-based podcast, but I was so excited when I saw them because I try to do all plant-based. I try to do all natural because I know what that does for my body. And as I get older, I know it needs a little bit more help than when I was younger. It could reset a lot quicker. And I know that there are some of the things that it looks like that you put in them. I know turmeric was one of them. I'm a huge lover of turmeric. Like, why did you pick these ingredients to put into your drinks?
Yes, so I've always been a really big fan of various super herbs and adaptogens, ever since young. Turmeric was always a staple in our household, and all the products that we've created, we really use ingredients ourselves have also benefited from, and ingredients that we consistently consume. And so every single thing that we create is a part of our routines. We share it with others, see how it affects them, and if it's something that's really positive, then we always look to sort of share it at a greater scale as well. But I've always been, again, really fascinated with lots of herbs. So turmeric has so many incredible healing abilities. Other things such as chaga mushroom, which we use in one of our teas. It's one of the strongest antioxidants in the world. It has so many medicinal benefits that, when I've told people about it, even before I started my company, and they would look it up, they were like, how does this exist? Like, how did we not know that something so healing exists out there, and it's purely natural? Ashwagandha is another great herb that we use in our tranquility flavor, which helps a lot with hormones, stress, anxiety, muscle recovery. So with all of our products, we really like to use super herbs that are functional. So they add an extra functionality to your body, helping you with either stress or digestion or immunity, in a format that's really sort of simple to understand and to consume. This way, as a consumer, you're not really too confused on the delivery method, but you are getting these incredible ingredients into your body. And we're always looking for new ingredients to incorporate. I mean, my routine is pretty large in terms of the amount of herbs that I personally consume. And so we're always looking to sort of try to share these ingredients with the average consumer who, one, might not know that these ingredients even exist, or two, might not really have the time to learn about it on their own or to prepare it on their own. So we try to give them the cleanest, most natural option that they could just grab and enjoy without having to question it and fully trust it.
So one of the questions I know a lot of people, because I know there's still a huge section of the world that doesn't really understand what herbs do for you. And one of the things I loved about it is you literally break it down when you go there, and they even labeled it like you need longevity, you need, sleep, relaxation. It's like all there. So you kind of know what you need. But I know a lot of people are like, well, what herbs would I need to, thrive in my, because obviously I can't take them all and I may not need them all, but how do you help them break that down as to like what is going to help them in their health and wellness journey?
Of course. Well, I mean, I think first and foremost, when it comes to packaging, we've always tried to make it as easy to understand as possible in terms of introducing a lot of these ingredients, which, when we launched the company, even things like turmeric and ashwagandha, we were meeting a lot of consumers and they were like, what is this? What are the benefits? I haven't heard of this before. And a lot has changed over the years, and we've seen more and more consumers gain interest in herbs and in a lot of these ingredients. But first and foremost, we really do try to make the packaging as easy to understand as possible, our website as well. And we do a lot of experiential marketing. So lots of events, lots of tastings and sampling so that people could ask us questions or try the product first. And we always have a really open dialogue with our community. So if somebody ever has a personalized question about a certain ingredient that we use and whether it's something they should be incorporating, if they have a specific ailment, they could always email us, they could always call us. And, we really created this brand as more than just, a range of products. We really are a wellness lifestyle brand. Our pursuit has always been to make health and wellness as easily accessible as possible. And so any way that we could help a consumer, whether it be specifically to our product or other wellness related questions, we really love what we do so much, and we're always happy to chat about anything herbal or just wellness related.
I'm so glad you brought up what's on the label, because I got to tell you, when I go shopping, my husband say, don't buy that stuff without us, because they're doctors and they're like, yeah, you don't want that. Yeah, that's just another word for bad sugar that they've come up with so that they don't have to tell you sugar. And so when people are looking on their labels, like I'm drinking something now, I have no idea what it is. And I don't even know if I could read the label, but I'm not sure. Like when people are there and they're seeing these words, my husband's like, if you don't know what it means, don't buy it. Like if it's a something you don't recognize, you're like, what the heck is that? Don't get it. But it's confusing when we get there. It's so hard to read what's on the labels.
It is. I mean, I think the first great step is that you're reading labels. I think a lot of consumers aren't even doing that. And unfortunately, in the United States specifically, there's so much greenwashing that's allowed to happen. And so many brands are allowed to mismarket their products. And so as a consumer, if you're just, you have a few minutes in a store, you're going just based on a label, a lot of times you're being tricked into buying a product that might seem natural, but actually isn't. And for me, I've always been an ingredient stickler, whether it be our product or just anything else that I'm buying. I like to know what is specifically in the product. And I'm, if it's not clear, I could reach out to the company and find out. But there's so many hidden ingredients in our food and beverage products in this country, even in the more wellness-based products that have been coming out as of late. And it's really important to understand these things as a consumer, because, I hear of so many people who believe that they're buying a product or living a healthy lifestyle, yet they still feel lethargic. They still don't feel like their best selves. And a lot of times that lies in these hidden preservatives and ingredients that we're consuming without even realizing it. So the best thing that you could do as a consumer is to always read the ingredient label. If there's something you don't understand, chances are it's not something that you should be buying in the first place. And then there are other ingredients, even things that are labeled as natural flavors, you should be really wearisome of because they're filled with tons of chemicals, typically anywhere from 50 to 100 chemicals per natural flavor. Another ingredient, which is known as citric acid, almost every product, and oftentimes it's derived from black mold. So even ingredients that we're used to seeing and we assume, are just a part of every product can also be really toxic for us as well.
Yeah, I had no idea that citric acid wasn't good for you. And I live around a bunch of people who are doctors, and I had no idea. So it's scary that they can keep changing the names and hiding things. And I think when you see something that says, like you said, artificial flavorings, there's like a list of things that they can put in under artificial flavorings. If it's under a certain amount that they don't have to list, it could all get grouped into that artificial flavorings, which is why I don't buy that if I see the word artificial flavorings.
Even natural flavorings, which is the crazy thing, because you see the word natural, you assume, oh great, this is natural. But even the term natural flavors, only I believe 10% of the actual like extracts and flavorings in the flavor have to be natural for them to list that term. So typically if it says, if you're buying, let's say like a strawberry protein shake, and it says strawberry natural flavors, typically there are a lot of artificial flavors in that strawberry flavoring as well. They're just allowed to list it as a natural flavor because a percent of it is naturally derived, which doesn't mean that it's natural at all. So you always want to eat as close to the earth as possible. You always want to try to find ingredients that are as close to their natural form as possible. I think that really is where we should try to be as consumers with any product that we buy. Especially when we're buying processed products, because there's so many opportunities for there to sort of be these hidden dangerous ingredients in there that we definitely want to stay away from.
By the way, that is so true. When I went plant-based, I went to the store and I bought a lot of things that were like meat, but plant-based, and they tasted okay, right? But I couldn't figure out why I was having so much inflammation issues, and I'm eating plant-based. What's going on? It turns out they're full of sodium, like packed full of sodium. And if I went to a restaurant, let's just say, I don't know, a Chipotle's, I don't know if everyone knows what a Chipotle's is, but it's supposed to be healthy, natural food. And I had a vegetable or vegan plate, it's more calories than if I were to get the meat or the steak or the chicken with all the same things. I could never figure it out. I know why now, but I couldn't figure it out on my journey.
Yeah, it's a tricky journey. I also eat predominantly plant-based. I don't eat any meat. I eat a little bit of fish. But a really big thing is, this plant-based movement started, and, I would always see, because I spent a lot of my time in grocery stores, I would see a lot of consumers coming in and filling up their carts with all these vegan snacks and meat alternatives. And you see sort of like that proud feeling in their face because it's great. They're making this big lifestyle change. Their intention for doing it is pure. They're doing it to better their lives. The issue is that they don't yet realize that just because something is plant-based doesn't mean that it's good for them. And there's also this huge movement now to something that's titled as better for you products. But just because it's better for you doesn't mean that it's actually good for you. And if you're going to do plant-based the right way, you want to eat a lot of whole foods, nuts, seeds, fruits, vegetables. And I'm not saying that there's no room to have some of these plant-based meats and products, because a lot of them do taste really great and you could have it as like a treat meal. But should it be, 85% of your diet? Absolutely not.
So another thing you just brought up rolls me back into something I wanted to talk to you about, trends and long-term. So plant-based became a trend, and all of a sudden the marketing, like, we want to get on board with this trend. So let's start marketing things. How do we stay plant-based, governmentally monitored, and make money on this? And it gets crazy when the marketing people start getting into it. But I do exactly what you just said. Now I try to stay as close to the whole food as possible and create my own things here, which has caused me some problems when I go out to eat, because now I'm like, well, how are they preparing that? I don't know, like, what's happening back there.
Yeah, eating out is always tricky for that reason. But I'm also a big believer that like the mindset that we have while we're eating or drinking or consuming is really important. So if we're always hyper stressed about like what's in that product, that's also not good for us. So I think we have to always be as diligent as we can. But if we're going out to eat, you know, if it's an occasion or we're with friends, you also want to just be able to enjoy yourself. Because of course, you know, we need our mental health to be as strong as our physical health. And there's a huge connection there as well. So I agree with you on that. Eating out could be tricky. But even then, you know, if you're getting a lot of great, you know, vegetarian dishes and vegetables and good sides and, you know, mixing that in there and then, you know, detoxing your body from time to time as well, then you should be all right.
I agree. I know we have a dinner tonight and I'm like, what are they having? Ribs. Oh, I'll eat before I go.
Yeah, and
So
that's fine. Yeah,
that's what
and
I do to
I do that a lot.
adjust.
I
I
do
love
that a
it.
lot as well.
I want to know how people can start incorporating stuff like this into, first of all, a diet is simply what you're eating, right? It's only means what we put in our mouth, but because of marketing, it's got to be like to get thin, to get, you know, bulky, whatever it is, that's how they're using the word diet now. And it should be something long-term. It should be a beautiful habit that is sustainable, that takes you through your life and you adjust as you age or get older, or issues come up. But how would you suggest people start taking that first step into that journey of getting better? Like it's been an 11-year journey for me. I didn't give up all that stuff overnight. And we were just talking, the hardest thing for me to give up was I really am not a sugar eater, but I put Splenda in everything. And when we would go out, my husband would say, do you want yellow cancer, pink cancer, or blue cancer? Which one are you picking? And then I got introduced to monk fruit and I became obsessed and I couldn't find anything wrong with it. And so that is what we've been using in our home for everything for the last 3 years. And my husband, who is a diabetic, it's perfect for me to sweeten his foods and keep his blood sugars balanced. But how do people get started with the one thing? Because honestly, if you try to do it all, it's not going to be very sustainable for you. It's just a one thing at a time, change one thing, one thing. So what would be one thing that you could tell them that they could put into action right now and create change in their lives?
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, I think that starting small is super important. You know, we don't realize it, but even making small little changes, they really do add up. And then when you look back years later, you're like, wow, I've come a really long way. Like you mentioned, you know, you've had an 11-year journey to get to where you're currently at. I think the first thing that you need to know on this path to wellness is who you are, you know, what you need, and what kind of a lifestyle you lead. So, you know, if you work a job, you know, 5, 6 days a week where you're constantly in the car, constantly traveling, that's going to affect the approach that you take because chances are, you know, you're a little bit more limited time wise in terms of like preparing your own meals. But I think the best starting tip for most people is to hydrate more and to hydrate cleaner. I think that most people out there are dehydrated without even realizing it, and they only drink when they're actually thirsty, which is not the right approach to take when it comes to hydration. You want to hydrate your body tremendously throughout the day, and the best way to do that is to start your drinking a lot of water or clean fluids. You know, I wake up, I typically am not thirsty when I wake up, but I'll still consume a liter of liquids because that's going to help hydrate me and avoid dehydration later on in the day. And a lot of times when somebody feels cravings or they feel hungry, they're actually just dehydrated. So I think just by hydrating your body properly, that's already going to set you up for more success throughout the day. Then, of course, you know, we could talk about the choices that you make with consumption. I think consuming more fruits and vegetables is a great place to start. Whether or not you're a meat eater, I think just trying more ways to have sort of like eating the rainbow when it comes to fruits and vegetables. Just by doing that, just by hydrating more and eating more fruits and vegetables, you're going to already feel so much better. And most likely that'll trickle down and you'll start to incorporate even more positive habits into your life.
I love that. I would add to that to start reading your labels when you start purchasing things and paying attention to what's in your foods that you're taking home. And the other thing I would add to that is to start adding in some of these incredible herbs that the earth has given us to start managing our wellness, even if it's one thing at a time. Like I do ginger after every meal and before every meal. Like he's got rose hips in his drinks, and I love rose hips because it's great for balancing out your blood pressures, and it's amazing for stuff like that. So just add in one thing that you know. And by the way, they're not all created equally. So really be aware of what you're getting, because I remember the first time I was buying it, at Costco, and it was coming from China, and it really wasn't the same sort of thing that I would really want to be putting into my body. So again, read labels, research what you're using, but add a couple of things in. We're coming into a beautiful new year, and you can make those couple of little choices to really start thriving and start that health journey. Where can they find you, Jonathan?
Yeah, and I think that's a really great tip. And what I always tell people is eat or drink something, you want it to do as much for your body as possible. So there's so many things you might already be consuming throughout the day where you could sneak in a lot of these superfoods, and it won't really take too much more of your time or money. And you might not even really taste it that much. It might not change the actual already creating, but you're going to add so many benefits to your body. So like I love adding our drinks into like smoothies that I make myself, because I'm getting an added dose of these superfoods. So I think that's a really great tip. And I think most people should try to at least learn more about, these abundant herbs and adaptogens and superfoods that we have. And for anyone who has any questions, you could always reach out to me directly on our website, which is drinkdowntoearth.com. The website for our monk fruit sweetener is loyalsweets.com. And then they could find us on Instagram at the handle drinkdte. And for Loyal, it's at Eat Loyal Sweets. And, we always get back to anyone who has any questions for us. So I highly encourage anyone who's a little bit confused or wants to learn more to reach out, and more than happy to chat.
I am so excited you're here today. I really think people need to hear this, especially going into the new year. You can literally change any health issue. And I'm not saying cure yourself of anything, by the way. I don't make curative claims or diagnoses, but your health journey can change when you start fueling it instead of feeling it. Like you're just filling a hole because you feel hungry. But if I'm filling my hole with something that's going to fuel it and really start feeding it what it needs, like it's going to change your world. It has for me. So thank you so much for being here, Jonathan.
My pleasure. It totally will. And also people assume that they feel great, they don't need to change anything. But a lot of us don't even know what it feels like to feel 100%. So just because you're walking straight and you're able to work out and, you feel all right throughout the day, it doesn't mean that there isn't room for improvement. And that's what makes life so exciting. We get up every day and we have the opportunity to better ourselves and strive for more. And I encourage everyone to look at it as an exciting daily challenge to look forward to.
I love it. You guys, we're going to put all of his links in here so you can connect with him very easily and find out more information about his products, who he is, ask questions, which I strongly recommend. Put him to the test. If you have questions, ask. Thank you so much for being here, Jonathan.
Thank you for having me. This was a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast. Make sure to visit Jana's website, bestholisticlife.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, or listen there, so you'll never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about the show, that'll help too. Let's change the world together, one health expert at a time. Looking forward to seeing you next time.